Look at this plate. To the naked eye, it appears perfectly ready for the next customer, but zoom in closer and you will find a chaotic cluster of crawling bacteria. A kitchen surface can look spotless while still harboring microscopic pathogens. To understand how to actually remove these hazards, we have to separate two steps that are often confused. The first is cleaning. Cleaning is simply the physical removal of visible food, grease, and dirt from a surface. Sanitizing is a completely different secondary process. Using a chemical solution or high heat, sanitizing actively reduces the number of invisible pathogens on that clean surface down to safe levels. To ensure both of these processes happen effectively, food contact items must go through the standard 5-step three-compartment sink method. Before a single dish enters the water, the sink compartments and the attached drain boards themselves must be completely cleaned and sanitized. Treating a wiped-down surface as a safe surface creates a dangerous blind spot. If we skip the chemical sanitization, we leave our guests vulnerable to foodborne illness. Step 1 is the scrape. Before anything touches the water, you must physically scrape leftover food and debris off the dishware and directly into a trash bin. If you have heavily soiled items or baked-on food, they require a preliminary soak. Forcing a pan full of crusted debris straight into the sink will quickly ruin the chemical balance of your wash water. Step 2 is the wash. Now, the scraped items move into the first sink compartment, which is filled with a commercial detergent solution. This diagram highlights the temperature threshold for the wash water. The solution must be maintained at a minimum of 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius to properly activate the detergent. Next, you apply active physical scrubbing. You have to break down the residual grease and stubborn soils manually, working the brush into every corner. You must monitor the condition of this first sink continuously. The exact moment the suds disappear or the water becomes visibly murky, you have to drain and replace it. These first two steps handle the structural breakdown of grime. If physical barriers of grease and food remain on the dish, the chemical sanitizers in the later steps will not be able to penetrate and kill the pathogens. Step 3 is the rinse. Move the items into the second sink and either completely dip them or spray them with clean, clear water. Skipping this rinse step causes a chemical chain reaction. Leftover alkaline detergent carried over from the wash sink will instantly neutralize the sanitizer waiting in the third sink. If you are dipping the items, pay close attention to the water clarity. Once that rinse water becomes cloudy or full of carried over suds, change it out. Step 4 brings us to sanitizing. Submerge the bare, rinsed items entirely into the third sink, which holds your active chemical sanitizer solution. The ability of a sanitizer to kill pathogens depends entirely on exact chemical concentration levels and specific submersion times dictated by the manufacturer. This diagram demonstrates the required verification process. You must use a specific chemical test kit to check the parts per million, or ppm, concentration of the solution, ensuring it matches the safe and optimal range. If the temperature or the concentration level falls below the required threshold, you must immediately drain and replace the sanitizer solution. Think of this third sink as your invisible shield. Without precise chemical calibration verified by testing, a dish remains a biological hazard, no matter how shiny it looks. Step 5 is the final phase, air dry. Move the fully sanitized wet items onto a clean designated drain board or wire back. Place every item entirely upside down. This ensures complete water drainage and prevents moisture from pooling inside bowls or cups. During a busy dinner service, there is a strong temptation to grab a cloth towel and manually dry the dishes to speed things up. Never do this. A porous towel holds on to moisture and traps bacteria from the environment. Wiping a plate instantly recontaminates the sterile surface you just worked to achieve. Patience is a mandatory part of the process. Air drying is the only scientifically sound method that preserves the newly sanitized state of the dish until it reaches the customer. Let's look at the complete operational matrix. The sequence is rigid: scrape, wash, rinse, sanitize, and air dry. You trigger this process each time an item finishes its intended use, or specifically when you are interrupted during a food prep task and have to step away. You also must run the full cycle to prevent cross-contamination. This applies when switching between different ingredients, particularly raw TCS foods, which are foods requiring time and temperature control for safety, like raw poultry, and fresh vegetables. There is also a strict time limit. Even if an item, like a cutting board or a pair of tongs, is in constant, uninterrupted use, it must undergo the full 5-step protocol at least every 4 hours. For specific chemical thresholds and additional resources, visit foodsafetyfocus.com. Following this unyielding protocol is your frontline defense, protecting both your restaurant's reputation and the health of the public.